Hello, Scott here, and welcome to yet another completely unprofessional unboxing. And today I am going to be off camera because today is a special unboxing. And also, with that being a special unboxing, I have a friend here. It is Matt Kraft, at Crafty Matt on Twitter. A lot of you know him, a lot of you follow him. You may have seen him on our live broadcast on Titterpigs, the podcast I do with Keith, and also you've appeared on a couple other things as of late, a couple other podcasts, and also James is live streaming it, right?
Right. I'm on Chambers of Role Playing. We just finished up Hollow's Last Hope of Savage Worlds Pathfinder, and then soon we are going to start with Rise of the Ruin Lords. So you can catch me over there as well.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. So we're kind of cutting to the chase today because I've been waiting patiently to open what's inside this little treasure box right here. And also, since I have a guest, I feel it's rude for me to drone on and on and on like I tend to do before I even get to the point. So before I do that even further, we're just going to go ahead and open this up, but kind of maybe explain it as we go along. If those of you who know Matt may know that we've been talking about it online, so you may know what's in here, but those who don't, you'll find out shortly.
I am terribly sorry that you've had to wait this long to open this box. My problems with the U.S. Postal Service are far and wide. I haven't received several games from them, due to logistics and all of that, but my box was sent back to Jeff Talanian, and I had to recover it.
Oh, no.
So that's why this is late. Oh, and then we were going to unbox them together,
Yep.
but my daughter got a hold of it and unboxed it for me.
Well, so no spoilers, though, for Matt. He obviously didn't say anything to me, but we are definitely looking forward to what's inside of here. So without further ado, trusty Coleman Camping steak knife here. This is an easy one. Let's get it started. Oh. And there we go. Alrighty. So let me just fix this mic a little bit.
What could it be?
Oh my God, this is very well packaged. So just taking a little peek that there's no personal information there as always. And we'll just kind of pull this out. Yeah, it's not fun blurring out something that's moving constantly with your personal information on it. That took me about 40 minutes to do that on one, where it just, had everything on there, and you could still see it. There was one time where I had there was a discount code for LFOSR. Are you familiar with that website? And I'm all, screw it. I'm not even going to bother this time. No one's going to use it. Someone used it.
Yeah, of course they did.
All right. So from the back cover here, you can see they look like old Encyclopedia Britannica books. this orange cover, but no, there's a little sign back there. So let's flip these over and set these aside, and voila. What do we have here? It is Hyperborea. Volume 1, the player's manual, and behind it is Volume 2, the referee's manual. And this is the special edition, collector's edition. This is the Hyperborea 3rd edition, out from Jeff Talanian. And this is something that we've been waiting for. Oh, I thought that was a fly. That all of us have been waiting for quite some time now, and it is fine that it has finally arrived. We are excited to take a look at this. The Hyperborea game that I've been playing in for over 2 years now. We've taken a little break in anticipation of this arriving, and we're currently playing Old School Essentials in the Isle of Dread.
Oh, okay.
And we are kind of almost near not the end of it, we're at a pause point where we are going to hop back into Hyperborea. Now,
are you in the volcano?
We are not in the volcano.
Then you're not at the end.
No, I know we're not at the end, but we're going to pause. And this is Andy Markham's our GM, and if anything, Andy Markham does not run anything standard. So we are on the Isle of Dread, but a lot of the things that we have come up against and we have experienced may not flow with the traditional storyline of the Isle of Dread.
I gotcha.
But we are currently we are with the Rakasta.
Okay.
And we are now playing dual characters. We have our characters that have come to the Isle of Dread, and for fun, we all created a Rakasta tribe member who is accompanying us to go find these Rakasta holy places that we're in search of. So we're kind of playing a dual characters there.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So when your main party members die, at least you have a second party.
Right, exactly. And I vastly prefer my Rakasta because, my God, they are powerful.
Yeah, well, yeah.
They are very powerful. And Andy has allowed us to make character classes, so we're utilizing the character creation aspect of the Rakasta from back in the day with some OSE thrown in for flavor. And we also have Sabertooth mounts, which we had never met. We had met them at one point in time when they were just NPCs, but we have never fought a Sabertooth tiger, nor would I want to after now officially seeing their stats.
No.
They are insane. So but there we go. There's my my digression, my Babylon as we take in a book. So
Now,
yes.
What's special about these?
That's a good question. That is a very good question. I mean, obviously, the cover,
bound.
the leather bound,
Right.
The wonderful black metal font here that may say Hyperborea. It's going to take some time for me to see into the matrix, but I see the H and everything. But but maybe I'm missing something. What else do you have to comment on that's special about it?
How many of these were made?
Good point, because Matt had shown me his. So we'll start by opening this up. And I am number 22. Let's get that into the camera. Number 22 of only 1,000 copies signed and number by the author, by Jeffrey Talanian. And thank you, Jeff. Signing 1,000 copies is ridiculous, but Matt brought his.
I did.
And mine, I'll just move that aside for a moment.
So I'm a insane Hyperborea person, and I woke up just in time for the Kickstarter to start. Unfortunately, there was a couple of more insane people ahead of me, but
Number 4
out of 1,000.
That is amazing. So you had your sign before Jeff even started to not want to sign anymore.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. So my signature actually it looks like it's made with love and dedication, and like, this guy really deserves this book. By the time they got to yours, he's like, God damn it.
Yeah, let's see here. Yeah, here, we'll put this in you can kind of see the E and the F's and the R's kind of come together. The T, it looks more like Jeffrey, Selanian, with a hyphen over it. And he's on book 22, and he's sitting there looking, going, I have over 900 left of these sons of bitches. Why did I promise to sign these? I could have just numbered them, and they would have been happy.
But that is the thing with Jeffrey Talanian is he is an absolute gentleman and a scholar.
Yeah.
And he signs and numbers all of his special edition products.
Yeah.
So not just this, but previous editions as well.
Yes. I'm just kind of leaning back here, but I'll show Matt later. I have a signed copy of Rat in the Walls that I've got on my shelf over there. Yeah, that's one of the adventures for Astonishing Swordsmen and Sorcerers of Hyperborea 2nd edition. But yeah, that was one that he very graciously signed after I purchased it too. So that was a bonus. So yes. So all right, well, taking a look at it, I immediately the inner cover here, fantastic, wonderful artwork, and I can almost guarantee you, like all of my friends who we currently play in Hyperborea, would not only appreciate this, but could swear that for the most part, this is our campaign. We have been in a situation such as this. We have fought, crazy 8 men from outer space, and this just looks wonderfully familiar in all regards. I don't know off the top of my head who drew this. I'm sure it'll say further on, but yeah, like most games, obviously looking at the cover of this, you're not going to get drawn in like you would, other games. I mean, the cover's not telling you the story, but immediately upon opening the book, you're going to get an idea of what this game is going to be like.
And that is a post-apocalyptic yet sword and sorcery mashup. The story of Hyperborea is the sun has expanded into a red giant, exploded the earth, and now the cap of the earth, Hyperborea, is now floating around Saturn. The northern winds keep the water from spilling off of the edge and everybody from floating off of the edge. And at any given time, you can see Saturn, you can see the red sun floating around Hyperborea, the Hyperborean sky, as a single day in Hyperborea takes 13 years?
That's a good question. I don't know that much about the history because when we played within the game, even though I've cheated a bit,
okay,
a lot of the lore has been localized to my characters.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, so I mean, and it's still not cheating because I mean I know Andy has no problem with us. We're all adults here, but I haven't officially run the game. So a lot of my attention to detail has been player side. So yes. Yep.
So in here, this is the second edition of the book.
You can set it down.
And again, signed and numbered. But in the Game Master section back here, I just got to remember where it is. There is an actual 13-year. And I forget where it is, and I should have been prepared for that, but I'm of course not here. I'll look for it while you keep explaining.
Right. So, well, we'll go ahead and take a look at it because I'm fairly certain Matt has looked through his books already. So yes, here we are. We have, Swords, Sorcery, and Weird Science Fantasy, Hyperborea, Volume 1, Player's Manual by Jeffrey P. Talanian. Now, the name has changed. It used to be Astonishing Swordsmen and Sorcerers of Hyperborea. And as I say that name, like so many people, my tongue gets a little twisted. Something that I'm sure he was well aware of and had kind of scaled it down a bit to Hyperborea. But those who know the game well and play it also know it lovingly as Ash. So here we are. So we've got credits here. So what do we have? We have Jeffrey P. Talanian, editing by George Sedgwick, the cover art by Charles Lang, which I'm sure is on the standard cover. Well, actually, you know what? Maybe this is the one who also designed the cover here. We'll find out. Color plate art by Charles Lang and David O. Miller, Peter Mullen, Val Semix, apologies if I mispronounced that, and with Daisy Bingham. Interior art, which is going to run the gambit of many, I'm sure. We have Ian Bagley, Jonathan Bingham, Mike Furnett, Jim Forezzi, David Hoskins, Charles Lang, Peter Mullen, Diogo Noguera, Russ Nicholson, Joseph Salvador, Glenn Seal. Hey, Glenn, shout out, buddy. Val Semix, Jason Schultes, Logan Talanian, Sky Talanian, Del Tiegler, Mike Tenebra, and carrying on. Then we have the cartography by the wonderful Glenn Seal, cartographer extraordinaire. Alternative meta logo. There we go. Alternative meta logo by turnmetal.com. Layout by Jeffrey P. Talanian. Indexing and final proofreading by Ben Ball. And playtesting by Dan Barubi, Dennis Breton, John Camarada, Jonas Carlson, Don Manning, and Mark Murata. All right. So
this picture here is the cover of, there's a colorized version of it, which is the color of the player's handbook. And great art. Mm-hmm. It shows exactly what the game is about. This is some kind of alien spaceship that's crash landed into a forest that's filled with giant spiders, and we've got this Conan-looking guy here. We've got this Caramon-looking guy here, and then random wizard guy, all fighting off these giant spiders while they look inside this alien craft that has landed.
Right. And knowing the game as well as I do, if myself and my fellow players are in this scene, what you don't see in this image here are 6 guys on the side getting ready to roll up new characters.
Yeah.
All right. So the format's going to be, I assume it's going to be very different, otherwise, and why do a second edition? So, looks like we're going through, a lot of typical things, but not typical. We've got a welcome introduction here. What is role playing? The role of the referee, the role of players. But then we have a more focused description of what is sword, sorcery, and weird science fantasy, which is a specific question to answer, I would say, because this particular type of game, this particular style of game, to me, after at least reading it and playing it, it's not quite Dungeons and Dragons. It's not quite Conan 2D20. Even though they all kind of coexist together, it really is it has become its own thing over the time, and even though the Conan 2D20 game really exemplifies what it is to be Conan and live within the world of Conan, I feel that for the most part, at least the edition that I'm familiar with, really exemplifies the sword and sorcery and weird science fantasy best of many of the other games that are out there.
To best describe the game, if you wanted to watch a movie, would be Krull. Mm-hmm. Krull would be what Hyperborea is. You laser-wielding bad guys for an unworldly, godlike creature whose castle happens to be a spaceship.
Exactly. And again, I'm a big art guy, as you guys know who've listened to or have watched this channel. You can see the border here, fantastic. It's just all the influences of Talanian in one spot. We've got Lovecraft, we've got the Weird Tales, we've got Clark Ashton Smith right there. As we're going around,
I'm going to assume that this is this here would be either the camp.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see any hat-wearing Texans.
No, I don't either. But there's still the representation would be there somewhere. Interesting. This is with the leering bat demon behind him. I don't know. Obviously we could find out very easily. So we've got.
There you go.
Yeah. And also the other thing is, weird science, weird fantasy, Cthulhian horrors also abound within Hyperborea in the game.
I think that the 1930s and 40s was a great time for fantasy and science fiction, especially when you had people like Robert E. Howard writing to people like H.P. Lovecraft and back and forth, that all of this stuff blended well into really weird tales. It wasn't until the 1970s and early 80s that fantasy became epic fantasy. But
right.
Before that, it was very weird, very just otherworldly and strange.
Right. Gritty.
And that's what this is.
Right. Gritty, visceral. The stories were, a lot of them, the stories of just everyday survival.
Right.
Doing whatever you can to make it through to one more day. And if that involved picking someone's pocket or falling down a mysterious well and seeing, mindless horrors stand before you, all you cared about was just, surviving, or the character, most of them, all they cared about was surviving and getting enough coin to carry on. So, okay. Well, right off the bat here, I really like this in the character generation aspect. Before you even get into a character creation step, which is important in any role-playing game, you're going to get a primer here. This really stands out here. So this is going to fill your mind with all sorts of Hyperborea oogly boogly and gobbledygook to prime your brain when you're creating your character to better envision it. So here we are. We've got what Matt has said is proved by science and sorcery. Hyperborea is a flat hexagonal shaped world. The sun is a red giant that skirts along the horizon, never rising to a zenith. 2 ellipsoid moons revolve around Hyperborea, one large, the other small. Saturn is immense in the sky. It is oft visible during diurnal and nocturnal hours. So yeah, I mean, immediately you could see the classic, science fiction and fantasy covers just pop right out at you, at the beginning of that. And a week is 7 days, a month is 28 days, a year 13 months, and a cycle 13 years. The 13-year cycle includes a year of perpetual light and a year of perpetual darkness. Wow, that I wasn't aware of.
Right, and in fact, the calendar, it should hopefully be in the Game Master's Guide, but it shows how many minutes of light are in any given year. So you could play an entire campaign that spans 13 years.
Right. And that's and if it isn't already apparent for those who aren't familiar, one of the things about Hyperborea is that there's going to be a considerable amount of crunch with it, but you only need to use as much as you really want.
Right.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
One of the big things about Hyperborea is Jeff Talanian's writing. It is not high Gygaxian, but it is not simple writing either. His writing style conjures up images in the mind, but the layout from character creation through combat, through equipment, is probably the best layout I've seen for a player's handbook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the last edition kind of, obviously it leans hard on a lot of, 1E and 2E Dungeons & Dragons format.
Right.
But what it does, like so many other and I wouldn't necessarily call it a clone, but a lot of the OSR games do is they take a lot of the organizational mess that was, or that were, AD&D.
Right.
And reorganize it. They don't really throw out the baby with the bathwater, but they make it a lot more easily digestible to understand it. And a lot of the things that, weren't apparent then become apparent now as optional. You weren't required to do so many of these different things that may have crunched up your game a little bit, but it's there for you to use if you want. And so it makes it, I mean, for me, unless I was just being super nostalgic, if I was going to run any sort of old settings, if I was running a basic D&D, I would use Old School Essentials, and if I was running AD&D, I would use Hyperborea.
Oh, absolutely. Hyperborea is the go-to for AD&D. Now, there is a couple of differences between Hyperborea and, say, AD&D or AD&D 2E, and that is this game is a humanocentric game.
Yes.
There really are no demi-humans to play, even though there are demi-humans in the world.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so, yeah, I mean, but that doesn't mean that it's boring.
No.
I mean, the humans here, the human cultures, the humans that, that are your optional, that you can choose from, are vast and diverse and just a wonderful amalgamation of different, cultural representations within the game.
Oh, absolutely. And remember, this is a game about a future Earth that has exploded from our own Earth, and it's humanity's struggle in now the weird and strange.
Right. So carrying on here, we have great obelisks rise from the 6 corners of the realm. That I know. We visited one.
And you lived to tell the tale?
No, that's where we stopped. Yeah. And it would take too long to go into the tale that happened there. But yes, some of us lived, some of us didn't. But a lot of other weird things happened too. So, my character, a paladin, essentially is off somewhere in space, having a space liaison with what I believe is some sort of a Hyperborean.
Oh, okay.
So, yes.
All right. Well, this picture right here is a great representation. If you remember that room that the main character from A Dark Crystal walked into and
Yes.
had that planetarium, this right here is the world of Hyperborea. It's the obelisks around there. Saturn is constantly spinning. You've got the giant sun there. Just an absolutely awesome world.
Yes. No. And real quick, we got Mount Vermithidon. Is Hyperborea's North Pole axis and largest mountain. Chromarium, Cosmopolitan Metropolis. Jesus Christ, I just had a brain fart there. Is the largest city of the realm. The Zathaqua, of course, I can't say Metropolis, but I can say Zathaqua. Hey, how did you sneak up here? Orthodoxy is the most prevalent religion of the realm. The indigenous Hyperborean race once ruled Hyperborea with savage cruelty, and finally a plague called the Green Death nearly obliterated mankind 1,000 years ago. So yes. So in a nutshell, that gives you a general idea of the world you're going into even before you start the creation steps. So are you going to be good, dog? My wife's dog, our little Shih Tzu, has snuck up here, so she's sniffing Matt. Hopefully, she's accepted him as one of the pack. So, all right, and yeah, I mean, page after my expectations are going to be page after page of artwork, just like all the other books. So, not going to go into too much detail of character creation, just because we'll be here for hours going through this due to the density of the information in here. But the general statistics are going to be your average D&D statistics that you roll up. You got strength, you've got dexterity, you've got constitution, you've got intelligence, wisdom, and charisma, and along with the creation method. Now, the standard creation, 3d6 down the line.
Right.
Yes, which is what we've done in there, although Andy has been so kind at some points in time, if we were set on a particular class, that he would allow us an occasional reroll, but that's the gamble you take.
So I allow, after a character has died, you can roll 3d6 and then assign. But your very first character is 3d6 down the line. You play that character until the character dies.
Right.
Now, that does not mean that, oh man, I don't like this character, and you find the first cliff to dive off of.
Right.
But yeah.
and that's the other thing about this is even with mediocre stats, you're still able to create a functional character.
Right.
Simply because, I mean, you're going to have to roll fairly horrible score-wise within the game. For example, strength. To have any negative features, you have to roll a 3 through, get a 3 through a 6, which not going to say it's not going to happen, but any from 7 through 14, you're not really getting some bonuses, but you're not really getting any attack bonuses until you're starting it into the 15s to 18s. So it's a world of people who are ordinary, but it's their classes that make them extraordinary.
Right.
So, okay.
And skipping ahead, if you get to the classes part of it,
Yep.
you will notice that it has the 4 standard classes of fighter, magician, cleric, and thief. But then, rather than multi-classing, it breaks down into these subclasses. So you would have a barbarian that would be an extension of the fighter, but then you also have like a cataphract, which would be a more dexterous fighter.
Right.
If especially when you get into the thief characters, you can have spell casting thieves, and you can also have like this rune graver and shaman. So while you can't multi-class, there is going to be a class that will fit anything that you wanted to play.
Right. And there are bonuses to being from the principal classes as opposed to the subclasses. And a lot of times that's at least with the other game, that's reflected in experience progression and whatnot, and certain abilities and certain things that are available to you. But yeah, I mean, our group is composed of a variety of principal classes and subclasses. Right. I mean, they're not boring. Playing a fighter in Hyperborea is not I just swing my sword when something comes at us. And
it's a good strategy.
Yeah, it's a good strategy, but there's so much more to it. So you've gone through this a bit, right? As far
I have, yes.
Okay. Off the bat, are there any? Has he added any subclasses or moved any around?
The monk has changed.
Okay.
I don't really play monk, so I
Right.
haven't explored that. But I do know that the monk is a much different class.
Okay. And this is a different format as far as just general, giving you a general idea of what they are. And the original one was, page after page of the different classes, and you would need to flip through them if you're looking through the book or save your spot. At least here, you get a general idea off the bat, and then you know where to go to if you want more information.
Right.
So. All right, and then thief subclasses, and all interesting. Let's see what have I. So within the game. Let's see. I have played a paladin. I have played a necromancer. I have played a shaman, and an assassin. So that should tell you. Our game's been running for 2 years, and this has been in the same campaign. So those are the characters that I played that have died over the period of the campaign. So it's a very, very deadly, very visceral game. But each one met a glorious death, and each one was a righteous death. There was never a situation where I'm like,
It isn't Dungeon Crawl Classics deadly.
No, it's not. And most of the times I died could have been completely avoidable if I had thought something through or did something different. It wasn't like you stepped on a trap and a giant brick fell on your head type thing.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So going through the details. So your base classes again: fighter, magician. Love this artwork here. This kind of the wild Wolverine kind of style, parted hair going out in a V kind of thing. It reminds me of like it came from a Neil Gaiman type story.
Right.
Neil Gaiman, sorry.
And can we talk just a moment about the page quality?
Oh, absolutely.
One thing they're not exactly white pages. It's a little off white. So and it's not. For the love of God, it's not glossy.
No.
I cannot tell you, my old eyes have so much trouble reading glossy pages these days that I really don't know why RPG books make glossy pages. My wife was joking yesterday when I told her I was coming over here to talk about these books that she says, well, the glossy pages are to wipe off the Doritos and Mountain Dew. She said other things that I won't repeat here.
Of course. Yeah, no, it's but not just the anti-glare aspect, but obviously this is quality paper, and this is something where none of this is going to fall out. The pages turn with ease and everything. I mean, obviously it's a hardback book. I don't have it open square, but yeah, and right away, I'm going to be perfectly honest. I do like the character class formatting immediately better than the prior edition.
Yes.
It's a lot easier to read. The formatting for the character classes were a bit all over the place. You would have artwork here regarding the thief, but since it was on this page, you would think that particular artwork was for the previous class, and not that that's the only thing that stood out, but just the layout, just right off the bat of the different classes, so much easier to read, done a lot better than what it was. Not that the other one was horrible, but this is a vast improvement. And as you can tell, each class has its own detail, quite a bit of detail involved. I mean, most everyone's familiar with what a barbarian is. Whether they play D&D, whether they played Old School Essentials, whatever they play, they kind of have a general idea what a barbarian is. But, a barbarian has, almost 3 full pages of information on it. So this is not just someone who's afraid of magic and, talks in a broken tongue.
And what's funny is, like, if you look at this barbarian right here, you have a move silently.
Right.
What people often forget is that barbarians aren't just big smashy guys.
Right.
Conan snuck into Thulsa Doon's his party, right? His lunch party, and basically burned the place down all through stealth. So barbarians are kind of that combination between a fighter and a rogue that a lot of people forget. They're also incredibly intelligent as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there's no negative modifiers in this game when it comes to the different different humans within the game. There's just pretty much the only thing that they have is there are ability attribute requirements for different things, but there's not like it's like, oh, you're from Crimea, you aren't as smart as everyone else. There's none of that in the game. There's just each class has its own social flavor, and cultural flavor, but there's no cultural pluses or minuses for any of them within Hyperborea.
And the base classes, the requirements for a base class are rather forgiving. Only being, I think, a 9 for the prime requisite, but you do get up into some of those other classes, and you could need the 15 or the 16.
Yes. Oh, that's a wonderful plea. So, yeah, Cataphract. That is, and as you can see, like you stated right here, he's riding his mount. He's got a scimitar or some other type of sword with him, and he's firing a laser pistol.
Right. Or actually, this is weird science fiction, so it would be a ray gun.
There you go, a ray gun, absolutely. Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
so
that's an amazing piece.
This is an amazing, interesting piece because right off the bat, there's a lot of color artwork within the prior editions. This stands out because this is a different style, and this is absolutely amazing. This. I'm curious because I would imagine the ones who share his namesake, those are his children who contributed artwork.
Yes.
Okay. So So this says Miller. Okay. So Miller, I'm just going to take a moment. I just want to see who that is and just give them the shout out because it's a fine addition. Let's see here. Let's see. Mullen, maybe it's Mullen. Peter Mullen. I don't see a Miller.
That may be Mullen.
And it looks like Miller, though.
It does.
Interesting. Well, let's see. I don't see it. Well,
there he is.
Where?
David.
Oh,
Miller.
David R. Miller. Okay. Color palette art. There we go. David O. Miller. Well, David, fantastic job. This is superb. All right, Huntsman. So yeah. So right off the bat, if you've read many RPG books, just kind of if you're flipping through this for the first time, you're looking at you already know that this is going to be a lot of information. You're not even through, half the book.
She's in big trouble.
Yes. That. You know what? This is the one that's in question because I could have. There was like, I don't know if this was associated with the paladin in the previous book or not,
right?
Or if this was associated with the cleric. So there was a bit of confusion there what was going on. But for the sake of this one's going to be associated with a paladin, which within a game of rogues and ne'er-do-wells, playing a paladin for almost a year was extremely difficult.
You have to put a bucket on your head a lot.
I played him as this overzealous, hyper religious idiot because he did have a horrible intelligence, a subpar wisdom, but he was the white. The white tooth, blonde hair, just I am just the hero bringing the religious aspects of Lunaqua to the world, and whatever these guys are doing, I don't see there'd be a lot of excuse me, Sir Marcus, could you step out of the room for a moment? absolutely, I will be outside. And then, of course,
Or it's, no, I can't step outside when there's evil to be done.
Right.
And it's like, I think there's pickpockets out there.
Yes.
I will go get them.
right. And of course, walking back into the room, it's like,
Yeah.
oh my, what happened? Oh, they fell on their swords. Oh,
Then why is your sword bloody? Because they fell on our swords.
right. Oh, makes sense. Carry on. Yeah, so there was a lot of that. I mean, and granted, there was a couple occasions where he should have got penalized, but he was he was the punching bag for several occasions until something horrible happened to him, and Andy gave me the option of becoming an anti-paladin because they had just come out with that class.
Paladins in 1E, 2E,
Yeah.
and Hyperborea, they often ask, "Where's the rogue? Where's the thief?"
Right.
A lot.
Right. So, all right. So we're carrying on. So I'm going to kind of skip over some of these classes here. We've got the revised monk there, priest. But yeah, this is a well-preferred format than what it was. So where are we at here? Just kind of want to see where... Okay, here we go. Let's go back a little bit. All right, so we're on Chapter 5. So we're on page 113, and so that's where we have our classes and general character creation. So by this point in time, you have a class, you have your abilities, and then we go with our backgrounds, being the races in Hyperborea. You can roll, you can choose. I personally prefer to roll. I like the randomness of what it's going to be. Now, to be fair, usually, not that you have to go in this order, but I tend to like to just know what I'm going to be playing first race-wise and then look at my stats and then pick a class. You don't have to pick a class and then a race. Because just a lot of times if, you know...
And the race is not the same kind of race you would find. In here you have Amazonians,
right?
You have Celts, you have Picts, Vikings, Greek, Anglo-Saxon. So there's various various cultures in humanity being represented.
Right. And they all have a good amount of information on them, various locations where they frequent, city-states that they're known for, and they are a mixture of a lot of the the Howard backgrounds that were created in his stories, along with others being added to it. And then carrying on with some other random. So we got some trait creations. We got your physique and whatnot. And again, granted, it could have some aspect to it, but your strength doesn't necessarily tell you how tall you are, what your weight is like and whatnot. So I mean, you can. There's a variety of aspects to tailor your character.
And rolling, as you said, rolling randomly is really interesting, especially for the first character.
Yeah.
Because I like to not know the character that I'm playing. I like to not have an idea of who he is until he's rolled up. And then I'm like, oh, well, man, I can't believe that I rolled up a 350-pound fighter, but how am I going to... And then you just come up with a story for him.
Right. I mean, and how many movies, sword and sorcery movies, where there is some immense guy,
right,
who shouldn't be moving like he does, but he does.
Exactly.
So it's a different world. So all right, and not that I have any stake in this particular game, but in this particular situation, but we have alignment within the game. Now, like as stated, I don't have a pony in this race. I don't care about the alignment debate. I personally have no problem with alignment. I can play with alignment. I can play without alignment. I don't think it's a detriment at all to the game.
It is a traditional holdover from older games from the 70s and 80s. And honestly, it's really there just to inform the game master quickly of what your character's decisions may or may not be.
Right.
It is especially important, though, when you're playing characters like a paladin who may be lawful good.
Right.
You can also have lawful evil paladins.
Right.
Look at Darth Vader.
Right.
And it's just a quick way to quickly inform players and game masters what the character or what an NPC or even creature is going to be about.
Right. And it looks like he agrees with you because, as you can tell, there's no long exposition on it. It's just, hey, here's a little bit about lawful good, lawful evil, and so on, just as a as a road sign. That's all
Right.
it is. Do you have to strictly adhere to all these things? No, because there's nothing here that says you should. It's just it's a nice roadmap to have in regards to certain moralistic aspects of a game that does have morals in it. All right, so a variety of languages here. Now, one thing to note within this, obviously, this being a post-apocalyptic world where people grow up in a world where there is sorcery, there is magic, there is education, there are books, there are things of old that exist that would be considered sci-fi back then. But there's no guarantee that even within your culture that you are going to be able to read within the game, which was very interesting because there was many a time where, Andy would be like, okay, you found something. Who can read? And it'd be like 6 of us would step backwards.
Right.
And 1 of us would step forward. So
Get the magic user.
right. But language is an important aspect of the game with all the different cultures. You're not, and even the common dialect really isn't spoken by everyone within the game, which makes it interesting, an interesting role playing aspect of the game. The variety of different religions, and this is one that I found interesting when I started playing the game because being someone who is playing within a lot of the fantasy world, you do see a lot of rehashes. Especially in Dungeons and Dragons, it's just the same thing with a different name. But there's a mixture here of Greek mythology, mythology from Lovecraft, and
Some Celtic mythologies in there,
Celtic mythology,
Norse mythologies,
and mythologies completely made up within the worlds of the of Lovecraft and Clark Ashton Smith and whatnot. So, but I don't know if there's any in here that are completely strictly Hyperborea, meaning that he was
Right.
made up within the game. Maybe Yogg or Yug. I don't know. All right, so secondary skills. This is another thing within the game which is extremely helpful. I mean,
Right.
holy shit.
And then also it informs what your character did before they were in adventure.
Right. All right. So, and we come through a lot of people's love and a lot of people's bane when it comes to role-playing games. The wonderful world of equipment and
So this list has a lot of these little symbols on it, and it's annotated here. A curved sword, for example, may be able to get past a shield easier.
Yes.
Pole arms being able to attack somebody with a dagger easier. This is where that crunch starts to. We start seeing the crunch.
Right. Yeah. When we would get into combat, there was a lot of strategy involved. Once we lost our sea legs with the game and became confident, we were constantly looking at how combat was evolving in regards to what we were doing with the area that we're at, because within the game itself, a lot of these secondary combat abilities that you have aren't class based. You just can do them, and depending on your skill determines how it turns out, if I'm not mistaken. So
Right. And I mean, just great art again.
Oh, yeah.
There is a lot of role-playing games out there, especially OSR games, that do not have weapons art anymore. It just assumes that the players know what a war pick is or what a morning star is. But then, like, you take somebody like my wife thinks that a morning star is actually a flail.
Right.
She's all, whoa, that's a morning star. No, that's a flail, baby. And so these pictures are just absolutely just awesome.
Fantastic. All right, and carry out the missile weapons. Yes. Yes, that's the one thing that I noticed in the previous edition. Yes. There is a grail. Or glaive, sorry.
Glaive, yes. Which isn't a glaive, but it is a glaive.
Right. All right. So, and then we have all of the extra equipment. Now, granted, it's not overbearing.
Right.
I mean, there's enough here for you to, not necessarily get lost in, but go on a shopping trip with to pick up a bunch of stuff. But it can be added to the game, but there's not a giant equipment log, hours and hours pondering over all the little piddle and crap that you can slog down your game in regards to stuff in your inventory.
You will still spend an entire session having a shopping session.
Oh, absolutely. All right, sorcery. So magic within the game is interesting. It's definitely. It does carry its old school appeal on its sleeve, and it shows primarily when you're within combat too. Or at least with how the old edition used to work with the old school declaration of combat.
Right.
And so, but we've got poisons, creating potions, alchemy, spellcraft, and spell books within the game. Magic is to be feared. Magic is to be respected. Magic is something that only the few know and can wield properly without any sort of horrible aspects to it.
There's a lot of charlatans out there that say that they're magicians, and most of what they do is just alchemical stuff.
Yep.
When you come up to a true magician, the landscape changes.
Yes. If you play a magic user within the game, it is apparent.
Think Dying Earth.
Yes. And you don't have to start off as an old wizened man with a beard, but it can help.
And I have always thought that almost like Raceland, when you decide to become a magician, you give up a little bit of your vigor, your vitality.
Yes.
And the gray hair may not necessarily mean that you are an old man. It just means that you have given a piece of your soul to a patron to get that magic.
Right. Absolutely. So one of the things that's always great about role-playing games and that deals with fantasy or spells, obviously, is not just the description of the spells, which I'm sure are just as exceptional as they are within the other book, but we've got wonderful artwork here. Agonizing touch. You know what that means just by the title of it. But we've all been in a variety of different pain over the course of our lives, but something like that is an agonizing touch. That's not just ouch. You made my muscle cramp up. Oh.
And that's another thing about this artwork that some other more popular games out there is I miss the artwork that made characters look like they were in danger or doing awesome things rather than just standing there and this is what an orc looks like. No. Show an orc and show it bashing in a character's head because that's what is going to happen in the game.
Right. Now granted the artwork itself wasn't exceptional, but that one old school image of rock grubs bearing into your forearm.
Awful.
And just the look on his face, not fine art, but just seeing that, and you can just envision going, these things are crawling into your skin and your muscle, and there's nothing you can do about it.
And you never want that happening to you.
No. All right. So, yes, there's going to be a ton of magic within this game, but as stated, magic is rare. I think the most spells that I ever had within the game when I was playing a magic user was maybe 4.
Right.
It is something to be hunted for. It is something to be discovered, quested after, and held dear because the other aspect is you have your spell book with you, whether it be an actual book or stuff inscribed on stone tablets or a set of bones, on a branch. When that's gone, you're gone. You don't have any spells left, and the recreation of that would be next to impossible. So,
and when you find another spellcaster's spell book, it is in a completely alien language that you may not understand.
Right.
And it may take years, decades of research in order to learn what is within.
Right. If you don't have read magic, you're not guaranteed to read magic. You can read your spell book,
right,
because it was written by you, but you can't pick up someone else's and read it without having either knowing it or determining it by using a spell. All right, so we've got chapter 8. So far it seems to me that what they've done is what we have here is for the second edition we have what was the player's manual that came out after the fact, which I think came because a lot of people were saying, "Hey, I'm a player. I don't want to pay money for the full game. B, we're tired of lugging this giant Bible around all over the place."
Right.
And he said, "Okay, well, here's everything just you players need in order to play." So
there's something about this that
yeah,
when a player misbehaves at the table, you throw this at them,
right,
and they're going to listen to you.
Absolutely. Yeah, the soft cover doesn't make that kind of that's kind of a limp sound to it. It's like, come on, guys, listen to me. But yeah, so it's definitely this right here. I mean, as obviously it's stated on here, but a player's manual. But he's done what a lot of people wanted previously: the division of the players and the referee's handbook.
How many pages is this as compared to that?
It
looks like it's about the same size.
Let's see here. This is minus the index 288, and what we have here is
minus the index.
Yep. Well, here we go. About 318.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a little bit more, but I mean, there's more artwork.
Right.
There's definitely more artwork within here. Okay, so we've got hey, now you've got your thing ready. What do I do as an adventurer? So he's going to break it down for you here.
In the very first couple of pages is hirelings and henchmen.
Yes.
This is an art that I think has been lost in modern role-playing games, is the idea that you have to hire hirelings and henchmen. I have a current party in in the most popular role-playing game right now that they get angry at me because they keep losing horses. And they think that I have something against horses. And it's like, no, you just aren't hiring henchmen to watch them when you go into a dungeon. And there's a lot of scary stuff out there. An owlbear that comes up against horses, those horses are gone.
Right. So, and yes, you want hirelings within this game because guess what? Which would you rather have? Lost the 15 gold that you paid to him and have him go down in a blaze of glory, or the character that you just spent 3 hours creating. So
right, and then what's really awesome is that a hireling or a henchman can become a character if your guy bites the dust.
Right. So we see here that there's still he still has, as is suggested, but as a carryover from old school AD&D and D&D. We've got, aside from that, we've got aspects of standard tactics. We have the callback to callers, someone who communicates on behalf of the party to the game master, and the mapper, who is going to be mapping out a sheet of paper. Now, I couldn't tell you who still does that anymore at a table.
I do.
And that's fantastic.
Yeah. So, it depending on the game. It really is depending on the game, but I will describe a map and then basically pull out ultimate dungeon terrain or draw out a battlefield when needed.
Right.
But most of the time the players keep their own map and notes.
That's fantastic. And granted, I'll take it back. I'd say we do on occasion. Most people that I know, they don't do it like how we used to, where it was one square at a time.
No,
it's usually
not that granular.
Yeah, it's just usually just a line, a point of interest, another line going different directions. So they're keeping tabs on it, but it's at the end of a session, you don't end up with this beautiful graph map
No.
that never matches. That
Oh,
never
no, it
matches
doesn't. And it should never match.
Right.
And never correct your players. That's the important thing. But no, this game is a lot of chalk and a lot of 10-foot poles and a lot of pitons or pitons to nail doors shut.
Right. Oh, absolutely. So we're carrying on with other aspects: light, listening, sleep, rest. All of these abilities that are available to you right from the beginning. But of course, these are things that some people may excel in more than your average player. But none of these aren't available to you.
And an important thing in a humanocentric game is that no one has dark vision.
Right.
So light becomes extraordinarily important in a dungeon.
Oh, absolutely. And likewise, shelter out in the wilderness becomes important too, and also direction.
Right.
We became lost on many occasions.
Oh yeah,
trying to get from point A to point B over the map of Hyperborea.
And if you don't set up those rest watches, then all of a sudden your fire goes out, and you wake up and there's something in camp.
Right. Absolutely. So we've gone into Chapter 9, Combat. Again, we're not going to go into great detail with this, but as we stated before, this tends to follow the old school aspects of AD&D combat.
Now, this is the one chapter in the entire book that has changed the most.
Really?
And
Okay.
being on Jeff Talanian's forums, and then also discussing it with him in the Discord.
Right.
Before, in previous editions, you had phased combat. You had phase 1, phase 2, in which you could do these things, which is melee, missile, magic, and movement.
Right.
And you would declare what you were doing. You would declare, well, I'm going in phase 1, I'm going to melee. In phase 2, I'm going to move.
Right.
And then it would go back and forth between the players and the enemies. So all of the players would do their melee if they won initiative, and then all of the enemies would do theirs, and then missile and all of that.
Right.
What has changed here is the declaration still happens, but there is no longer phased combat. So all of the players will do their actions, and then all of the enemies will do their actions, and then it goes back to initiative.
Okay.
And rather than having two phases, if you are going to move and melee or move and missile, that happens in the movement phase instead of a completely separate phase.
Right. You know what? I'm glad you pointed that out, because Andy Markham is also a good friend of Jeff Talanian, and Jeff provided that aspect of the game while this was being created, and we actually played at that near the tail end of it.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's but this was after we had finally gotten used to the phase combat.
Right.
So we were a well-oiled machine, and then suddenly something which was technically simplified, we're like, okay, we're making declarations left and right, and certain aspects. It took a minute to just kind of turn that part of your brain off, because it's a different thought process.
I had adopted what Kevin of Dungeon Musings did, and had a race board, had a whiteboard where declarations were made on that, and then I tracked initiative. I'm so happy that it changed to this.
Right.
One small house rule that I may still make, though, is that melee will still swap between characters and enemies.
Right.
And then it goes down the line. I may not have all of the players do their stuff, then all of the enemies.
Right.
Because I liked the tactical combat that second edition gave.
Oh. Yeah, no, we did group initiative.
Okay.
Yeah, so but we did it with a D6.
Right.
And then I don't know if he changed it, but we started doing it with a D10. Does it still use a D6 within this version?
It still uses a D6.
Okay.
I mean, you can even use a D12.
Right.
Any dice.
Yeah.
You're
You're just doing initiative. Yeah.
Right. And honestly, D12s don't get enough love.
Yeah. So we're going through the book here, and then you'll see that you have combat options, things such as charge attack, fighting withdrawal. You have mounted combat, unarmed combat, overbear. These are not class-specific things, which is what I feel is very important and cool of Hyperborea.
Yes.
Is these are options for everybody to use.
If you're a ranger You can set up your arrows in the ground so that you get to them quicker.
Yeah.
It's stuff like that. If you wanted to do the shield ride, there's rules in here for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you're only as good as your skill. Now, everyone, there's nothing that says you can't do it, but obviously, people who have better, abilities or they're higher level will essentially do a bit better. But there's nothing that says you can't do a double arrow shot.
Right.
Just hope that dice goes well. All right, so here we are. There's the classic barbarian pose there. Critical misses within the game. Critical hits and critical misses. So yeah, they that was something that we utilized quite a bit. Can do up to ×3 damage, depending on your class. And then critical misses, ranging from a bad miss to hitting yourself.
Right. Which, if you're swinging a sword, how do you hit yourself?
I don't know. Your big brother shows up and tells you to stop hitting yourself. I don't know how that works.
you grab the sword and you swing and like you hit the back of your helmet.
Right.
I don't know. Yeah.
So here we got another wonderful picture. Now this one I enjoy a lot because this kind of brings me back to like this wonderful comic book style, not identical, but like the the Savage Sword of Conan days. This right here. This is something that not only would works well at gracing the cover of a role-playing game, but if you saw this on the cover of a comic book, you're going to pick this up too. So this is one of my favorite artists within here.
And these used to be the end plates for the various books in the complete edition.
Okay, in the box set, right?
No, in.
So, yes, in there, yes.
Yeah, so you would have. Let's see. Like this piece.
Oh yes, there you go. Yes, yeah, between the different chapters and whatnot.
So and then just good stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, and funny enough, I think we just saw this piece of art on a previous page.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, as much as it would be nice, I don't expect brand new art throughout the whole book. That's just not realistic. So, this to me looks like that's a Hyperborean standing there. Yep. Well, Hyperborean name. So yes. Right. So you're going to find in the back of the book, there's a lot of additional information for you. So you're going to find various appendices and name generators.
This is where that extra space in the player's handbook comes, because there was quote unquote DLC that Talanian came out with later that you could download off of Northwind Games that had like names in there. It had various other things such as weights and things like that, and then also a calendar. So. Oh, there. See, this right here is so super important to old school play.
Right.
Is not only are you exploring the land, but eventually you're going to get to a level where you're going to tame the land.
Right.
And as your character levels up to lordship, then he will hire new adventurers to go out and tame the land. And that is my favorite thing about old school play is that old characters either die or retire or become lords, and new characters take over.
Right. And then you cross your fingers that your GM is going to allow you to hopefully interact with your own character someday.
Oh, well, yes. Oh, well, I mean, I've had characters get lost in dungeons and their mind taken over by the necromancer, and then all of a sudden they end up as an evil party that's hunting the current party. So yeah, I don't like that kind of GM.
Interesting. we got the final Appendix C here in regards to cooperative gaming, and I think that's a fine term to have, when you're dealing with the games. And he goes on to explain here, cooperation amongst all the game's participants should always be striven for players. Should be striven for. My mistake. Players should avoid arguing with one another. We won't go into too many details on that, but that, and also he goes on to explain, should not should not also argue with the game master. It's you're all there having a game together, cooperative gaming. So nice little tale there, or a nice little bit of information there. And then we have an index.
The backplate.
Yes. Oh. I don't even know where to begin.
No, there's a lot going on there.
It's just so much and so wonderful. And that's just fantastic. It just, oh, wow. Yeah, that's.
You have this, I imagine, is a player character.
Right.
She is not helpless.
No.
She's trying to figure out almost 007 style how she's going to get away from this.
Yep.
You have the evil necromancer or what have you here. You have his henchman. This thing that is helping him out, and who knows, maybe he's getting ready to put one of these like bug things in her, and when he gets close, she's going to bust out and slit his throat or something.
It's almost like you can interpret it two different ways, because how I look at it is the exact same scene that you said, except she's conjured these skeletons and they're helping her break free.
Interesting. Yes.
So,
because he's reaching for the dagger there.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Looks like he's handing her something. So yeah, this is fine artwork. So what I think we'll do, Matt, is let's go ahead and make this a two-parter. We'll take a little break here, have a bit of water. We'll get my dog downstairs before she has an accident here, and then we will see everyone for part 2 as we take a look at the referee's manual. Button, where's the button?